Hey everybody, this is Steve from Conductive Labs, and I am so glad to be finally making this video. We've been working on this synthesizer for so long I can't even begin to tell you. So let's just do a quick overview, and I'll give you a tour of how the interface works, talk a little bit about terrain synthesis, and some of the cool stuff in the synth, especially modulation, how we treat the different timbres. So let's start with that right away. You can see up here we have the letter A, and across the top we've got the A, B, C, D on these buttons. And what those do is they change the timbre so you know exactly what synth you're on. So this is synth A, synth B, synth C, and synth D. So I actually have 4 synthesizers in one. That's typically what multi-timbral means. But in our synth, we allow you to, let me see, I can pop down the screen real fast. We let you go ahead and change, here we go, what MIDI channel and the little high note and low note, so you can do splits and layers and assign MIDI channels to the different layers. Well, when you do that, it gets really complicated to keep track of what timbre you're working on, especially when all of them are happening at the same time. And so what I decided to do is just have a mixer on the side over here. So if you go back to path, well, I didn't have to do that, but you'll notice that there's an A, B, C, and D here. And these knobs are, if you look at the top of the screen here, these are actually the mixer volume levels for each synth. So if I play a note or two notes, you'll notice there's just 2 circles playing. Those are voice indicators. There's 8 voices per layer, so you can see how many voices you're using there. If you press this button down here, we go to the pan mode. And so if you could pan hard left, pan hard right, go back to the middle, and then click this button back to volume, increase. Oops. There you go. And so also you could mute and solo. Well, solo's not going to do anything because we don't have multiple voices playing right now, but you can mute and solo each one of them. That's what these buttons down here are. And that allows very quick access to being able to build layered sounds. So if you're working on layer A or B or C and you don't want to hear the other things, you could just solo that layer. It's super cool. So that's how the timbres work. You could choose to have them, the different synths on different MIDI channels, or you can have them on the same channel, and that's how you get the layer. All right, so how do you navigate around the synth? Well, the first thing we have to talk about is the synth has multiple modules. You can see down here we've got a path module and a terrain module, a voice, filter, and effects. And on this button we have settings, patch library, and mixer. So between these 2 knobs, you can choose what module we're on. Right now, you can see we're on the path module. And so across here, we've got 6 encoders that are the different parameters for path. This is size parameter, and we've got the what's called, it's WH, but it's called the eccentricity, which is how narrow or wide. You can rotate the parameter. And notice on the right side of the screen, whenever we choose the knob, there's a visualization of what you're doing. Some of you may have caught that as you move your path up and down across the cliff there, that you get pulse width modulation. If you want to get to more parameters under path, you could just hit this button, and notice there's a little hamburger right here to tell you where you are, and those are the other parameters for path. If we want to go to terrain, we just press that knob that way. Now we're on terrain. This is like one of those little joysticks. And then we've got the terrain parameters here. Let's go back to path, and one of the really cool features about our synth is that we don't have a modulation matrix. So instead of having, 2 LFOs, 3 LFOs, 4 or 5 LFOs, we've got like a zillion LFOs. And how we deal with that is that nearly every parameter on the synthesizer has its own LFO, its own envelope, and its own little expressive matrix, which is how you assign things like mod wheel or expression pedal or CV to the parameter. So you choose your parameter first. So let's choose the size parameter right here. And let's see, I'm going to initialize a size parameter so it's back to normal. Boink, okay. Initialize all the parameters. In fact, I'm going to change my screen here. Oh, it's so hard to see. There you go. There we go, we'll use this one. Okay, so if I want to modulate the size, in other words, basically make it bigger and smaller, duh. If I wanted to put an LFO on that, we're on size, so I just reach over here, press LFO, and now I just turn the amount. And now you see you've got LFO on the sides. These four parameters match these knobs. And again, in this one, there's 2 pages. So if you hit the LFO, you can go to page 1 and page 2. So if I want to change the position of the actual parameter, I can do that. And you see it moves the whole LFO up and down. So like if you get close to the bottom, you'll clip. You know, we've got various waveform. Oops, that's the tempos. We've got various waveforms, a whole bunch of waveforms. And then other things, more advanced things like phase and skew and delay and retrigger. We got some cool retriggering features across the voices. Oh, okay. So I'll stop. I can just initialize that by holding the init button and hitting LFO, and that brings us back to 0. We also have an envelope for each one, so I can just go ahead and I can add some envelope. So when I hit a key, it gets big, and we can just adjust the ADSR envelope like this. Bring down, there we go. So now, not a lot happens on the terrain that's just a cliff, but if we change that terrain to say this terrain, you can see how the size changes the timbre pretty well. So let's go back to size. So that's so if you press these buttons, you can get to LFO, envelope. We got expressive matrix here. So if I wanted to assign my mod wheel, I could also do that. Right now it's set for unipolar, so we could just change that now to go bipolar, so we get full range. So in addition to, I can also wobble the knob with the mod wheel. So you can, and I also got volume pedals, CVs, all kinds of things, inputs in the back. These 4 knobs, when you put it in that mode, is macro knobs. So these macros could be assigned to multiple parameters. So one knob can map to multiple parameters. Yeah, so much to talk about. Okay, so that's how the modulation section works. And how we choose. Let's take a little quick tour of the terrain. So you saw on the path that you could tweak the path, its position and such. We can also change the terrain, as you saw. And this is the waveform that the path is actually tracing out. So you can see what you're doing. You can't hear that too much because you need to be offset from the center. There you go. Yep. So a bunch of different terrains. Now these terrains are math terrains, and what that means is that unlike a wavetable that's samples, you know, most commonly it's 2048 samples per waveform. These are basically infinite in resolution because they're calculated, they're math calculated. And so when you come over here to one of these and you tweak, you could tweak them and move them and do all kinds of stuff. That tweaking, you could even change the shape of the form itself. These are all math equations, so we're not morphing between samples. These are math equations. But I did want the ability for the user to bring in their own terrains. And so what we have are basically image importers. So you could just load your own PNG or JPEG files. And then you get your own terrains. And these are some examples. There's a zillion of them in here that I created. Some of them I created using like a paint program like these. I created using a paint program. And some of them I actually created using AI. So you can, have AI do that. We also support importing wavetables from your from your favorite wavetable synth. So so you just create the wave file, bring it in, drop it in the terrain folder, and we suck it in, and you'll see it here. We've got a couple of examples of a built-in wavetable. So this guy right here. Oops. Oh, what did I just do? So you could choose your LFO and your envelope for this particular parameter, but you can also use this button here to toggle through those. You'll see the lights moving over there. So that's sometimes a little shortcut if you just want to use that button. Yeah, so we're talking about wavetables. So here's basically some wavetables. And I can actually, if we take the path and we make it a line, and let's go ahead and init the path again, and then make it a line, and make it all the way across. We can actually move through those wavetables. Oops, that's a pan. Yeah, that's the one I was looking for. So there you go. So we can, and just like we did before, we can, now that we've got the Y, position Y selected, we can actually just put an envelope on it like this, and let's turn up the, there we go. So it's sort of like a wavetable synthesizer on steroids, because there's not too many wavetables that let you, let's get rid of that envelope, that lets you rotate the position. There we go, let's do that. There we go. So we could just rotate that position around, or scan around on it using a triangle, or we can also use what are called Lisa Joule curves and come down here and modulate the phase of those using an LFO as an example, and it will just rotate like that. Lots of cool stuff. I can tell you probably for another, and I'll make a bunch of videos looking at each module and going parameter by parameter. But I just wanted to give an overview of kind of how the synth works and some of the cool features. And I think I probably am running out of time, so we'll wrap it up. But this is part of a playlist. You'll find a bunch of other videos that talks about like all the modules, in-depth review of the LFO envelopes and expressive. We'll talk about all the front panel stuff. You can cut and paste, you can initialize, you can load patches into each of the timbres, or load the whole thing in like a performance. Tons of stuff, and we'll get to those in future videos. So thanks for watching, and I appreciate it. And I am so proud to finally get to tell everybody about this project we've been working on for so long. Thanks again for watching. Have a good day.